Welcome to the following of the Django tutorials about charts. So in this part we're going to continue with the rest of our project and complete our chart.html so that we can have two sets of line chart and bar graph for two types of data. So in the previous tutorial we extended our database and added some data to our database and also changed our views.py. Right now we're going to continue the process of manipulating our charts.html so that we can have the new data for our charts, actually new graphs for our charts. So here I'm going to add the exact same dictionary for data 2, and here I'm going to add charts data.charts data 2, which if we look at our views.py has charts data 2, right? So we will use this data for both of the data we need right here. And so what is the same between these two? Actually the labels are also not the same, because the labels for this one is blood pressure record, and for the first number on the top, and the second one is the number on which is not on the top. So for the first one this is true, but for the second one we need to add a string. So I'm gonna call this string, so blood pressure sample 2. So I can say, for example, the second number, and for this one I can say the first number. Or you can just add nothing, no data for charts label, and then write them over here instead of your dictionary. What matters here is the time, which is the same for both data, the charts, the labels, data labels, which is related to the time of recording, and also the data that, and what is different is the data that charts data, which is for this one is different from this one. So anyway, let's now also fix our if you haven't fixed your functions, calling your functions, you can do it right now, and also do this for your IDs, because the IDs over here change with the number 2. So the ID related to data 2 is blood pressure 2 and BP bar graph 2, and so the functions do not need to change. Now we can save the code and let's see if we have any errors. So let's run the server, python manage.py run server. There we go, and let's follow the link. Now I can follow the link here, and we don't seem to have data. There must be something wrong with the data that we've entered. So now we need to make some small fixes on our code, and that one of them is to edit the ID over here. We had blood pressure, so it needs to change to blood pressure 1, because the ID right above was blood pressure 1, right? And also BP graph 1, so we had written BP graph, and now it should change to BP graph 1. Also in your views.py, here we had written bp.append, so it needs to change to bp2.append because it's about the blood pressure number 2. So once we fix all of these and refresh the page, we'll be able to see that we can see all of these graphs, bar graphs and line charts. So this is the related to blood pressure, the first number, and this is the second number. And also you can see the bar graph of each one of them. And also the data labels are set over here. So if you want to add some other data, you need to make sure that for each one of the bar graphs, you need to add RGB values for each one of them. So right here in our code, instead of writing the entire array, we can write a for loop in order to cover all of the cases where we have a longer number of databases, or make it much better for a person who wants to add data and also has a bar graph, and that person cannot code, right? So you want a complete application. So in the following, we want to write that for loop in JavaScript. Also notice that whenever in JavaScript, because you're a Python developer, whenever you want to check anything on JavaScript, if you're not familiar with this kind of environment, if you want to console log, if you want to actually see something on the console, you need to console log that kind of variable. It's just like printing data to the console in Python. So you simply write console.log data, and then in the browser you can right-click on the page and click on inspect, and then you will be redirected to this page. You have console, and then you can see the object, right? So we have the blood pressure, chart label, chart data, and chart data 2. So this is the data that we had printed on the console, and you can see the charts has appeared. So now it's time to work on the for loop for completing our RGB values of the bar graphs, so that later we can add some other data and that wouldn't make any problem. So now let's get started by writing the bar graph for loop, right? So what we want to do here is to replace this long array with an array of the same type, but instead of writing each item one by one, we will loop through the array, and we will write it over here so that it becomes a dynamic array and be able to adapt itself, its size, to the number of data that we have entered. So right now this is a fixed array, but we want to create that kind of dynamic array. So the first thing we will do is to define an array which is empty, and we're gonna call this array. And the next thing we will do is to write a for loop, and so we'll use let I equals to 0, and then we will have semicolon. So in JavaScript, for loop is a bit different from Python. So, and then we have I up to, so right here we need to determine where the for loop is going to continue. It's just like the range of what we write inside of the for loop. So we can write data dot chart data dot length. So this is like saying that, for example, len of data dot chart or data of chart data. So right here, the next thing we need to do is to increment I plus plus, and then we have a block of code opened up in JavaScript. So we have array dot push, and this is like appending in Python, right? So what I'm gonna write here is the repeating of this RGB value, but okay, let me do this for this one. Copy and paste. So this is for the chart data, and we use this in order to we use this for the array related to border color, or it can be for the background color. So let me first do this for the background color and copy and paste it over here. So I'm gonna copy and paste it over here, and then we will, instead of array, we will write, instead of that very long array, we will write array, which becomes much shorter, and even it becomes dynamic. So array, and for the second one we create another array called array2 to cover the RGB values of the second one, which is for the color of the border. So this is going to be array number 2, and then we'll create a for loop again with exactly the same thing. So let me just paste them over here because it's exactly the same, but here instead of array, we have array 2, and the rest is the same because the length of charts data is the same, but the value of the RGB is different. So I'm gonna paste it over here instead of this one, and oh, it seems the same. So so it was a bit different. So let me press Ctrl Z so that we will see what the value of that was. So now here we can see what it was. It was RGB. This, so I'm gonna press Ctrl Y in order to get back to our code. So we determine the value of array 2, and here we are. So I'm gonna paste the value of that for the array 1. So if you just got confused, don't worry. This is the value related to the space under the borders, and this is for the borders. So this array is for the RGB of the borders, and this array 2 for RGB of the borders, and the array itself is for the area under the borders of the chart. And these two are for the bar graphs. So the rectangle has a border and also an area of the rectangle. So the first array is for the area, the second one is for the border. So right here, instead of this long array, again we write array 2, and this makes it not only shorter but also dynamic. So if you add other data to your database, it will still be ready for showing and representing data. So let's save this and refresh the page and see if we have any errors. So no errors, and as you can see, it's up and running and working. And also let's make sure if we have saved this. Yes, it's been saved, chart.html. Now let's try adding some other data to by logging into the admin panel. So I'm gonna log in, and here we are. So I'm gonna add some other data to the database. So for example, 130 and 87. So I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna get back to our home page. So as you can see, it's been updated, and let me check the last value. It's 130 and this is 87. As you can see, it's been updated and we have a complete chart. Everything went well, and so we've managed to create a project that we can add data to the database, and also the chart will be updated just accordingly. And you can add as many other graphs as you want to this page, just with the same formula as I told you. And you can have different analysis and data visualizations. So that's it for this part of the video.